Oh my God, you guys, hi, my name is Eureka O'Hara, all the way from RuPaul's Drag Race Season 9 and 10, and the ever-evolving, always evolving HBO show We're Here. I am taking over Coach Mike's podcast today. I'm so excited because he just released his new book called One Decision. It is a segue from his original book called Best Self, and I'm so excited that I get to interview him today and be the only queen in charge. How does that make you feel, Mike? Are you ready for me to interview you?
I feel more submissive and ready than ever.
Ooh, not submissive. It's getting filthy over here already, and I just took a shower. Okay? I'm excited.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Also, this book is like a huge milestone for you. It's your second book, obviously. The first one was a bestseller.
New York Times, yeah.
Oh, yep. Oh, casually New York Times bestseller. But also, like, this book goes hand in hand with the first book, which I really like.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the sequel.
It's the sequel.
Yeah, so it's like, obviously, Best Self is who you created, which is like this wizard persona,
right.
which I love,
Thank
right?
you.
Come on, Gandalf.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I got to read and explore it a little bit. So how excited are you that you
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm also just grateful that someone would actually want to publish a book by me, and that life has turned around in such a way that it's a milestone. I mean, and you're going to be writing a book, and we've gotten together and spoke about it. I hooked you up with my agent, and
love them.
Yeah, and it's it seems easy because a lot of people say they write books.
Yeah.
And then, really in my category, which is self-help, it's how do I always think about who is the reader?
Yeah.
And how am I going to help them? And how can I help someone who's 25 years old and struggling to pay rent? And then how do I help someone who's maybe 60 years old who's in retirement? And how do I create something that can speak to both,
Yeah. Well, I think you do a good job, honestly. Even in Best Self, there's a lot of truth in it, a lot of honesty. Even knowing you as a person. Listen, you guys, I've only known Coach Mike for like a couple years now at most, but he's been one of the most honest people I've ever met. And you're very like to the point and blunt. And I think that's what's really special about these books is you are very, one, honest, vulnerable, but it's very blunt too.
Yeah.
There's no bullshit, excuse my language.
Yeah, no, let it out.
There's enough in this world. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Best Self and One Decision is a no bullshit kind of read that's like, it's things that people I think about.
Yeah.
But they don't process it well. There's a few things in your book actually that I'm obsessed with.
Tell me.
One is obviously you're the wizard, right? That's your best self.
Yeah.
Where did the wizard come from?
Well, so in the previous book, I helped people identify, and this came from working with talent and artists.
Okay.
Was trying to figure out what is their artistic expression and who they are, and then who is that part of them that's keeping them from being that. So I love everything that's magical. Mm-hmm. I just think fantasy, sci-fi style, or Magic the Gathering, and I always think like we're all kind of wizards of our own making. We all have different spells we can cast. Some of us can cast a spell like you can of performance art and doing it your own version, and other people it may be, crunching numbers. But we all have gifts, and for me, I also wanted to develop a character that at a certain point, as time fades or age fades, that I would have a representation of me that could go through different channels. And so like I have a little animation series I created. I have a kids book I want to do down the road, like the wizard who couldn't cast a spell. Aww. Like I want to kind of expand that out.
Well, so I know that, like, with the child's book, things like that, it brought a question into my mind. So did the whole magical, like, wizard thing, is there, like, something from your childhood that, like, when you decided, oh, I'm a wizard, or I love magic, right? Was there, like, a moment?
I loved Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, really?
Loved.
Okay.
To the point where I wanted to get all the kids on my cul-de-sac to play out different characters, like someone to be the caterpillar, someone to play Alice.
I'll be the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah. I always loved that, and I always loved just like who are you? Like that's what the caterpillar says over and over again
Yeah.
to Alice, and it's who are you? And I think that is the biggest challenge for people.
Yeah.
It's the biggest reason why people end up taking their own life. It's the biggest reason why they don't follow their dreams. It's the biggest is they either have a damaged perception of who they are or they're afraid of being themselves. And so that's kind of like, you know, fantasy Alice in Wonderland. I also love Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I love at the end, when you see the movie, he gives back the golden ticket. And that's kind of how I've looked at life in a lot of ways is standing up for your own integrity above opportunity.
Love that.
And so I guess the combination of those two with a little bit of Magic the Gathering created.
So you said Magic the Gathering a lot. Have you played that a lot?
Oh, I just played it yesterday.
Oh, you love it.
I love it. Yeah, it's like meditative to me.
Yeah.
It's like a role-playing card game.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, for the viewers that don't know, obviously it's a role-playing card game. But I know because I'm a nerd.
Right.
So I love it.
You're a super nerd.
And I love Magic too. That's the craziest thing. I think that creative people in general tend to like have very creative ideas when it comes to like things they like to watch. So fantasy's a big thing,
right?
Obviously, and you're very creative. I mean, a lot of the things that you're doing here, it might be everyday life type stuff, but it's very creative. Like this is basically a workbook.
Yes,
I noticed.
It's and that's you know and that's the challenge is. You know, when I'm working with clients, I can on any topic. I can create an exercise, an experience, like let it go. When you write a book, you have to think, all right, well, how am I going to not lose someone? How am I going to get them to do the work? How do I make it fun enough? Because for me, if it's not fun to work on self, I don't want to do it. So I kind of try to create that. There's this perception that self-help and you know, personal development and mental health has got to be tough and it's doing the work on yourself. And it's just, I try to kind of eliminate that idea.
I love it too, because you have this image that is very like, you know, masculine and blue collar and clean cut. And, you know, you really have yourself together. So to hear you talk about all the fun side of like getting your life together, that's what people forget. Like this is to take you to a positive place. You have a lot of like notes in your book about the positive force, the negative force, like the force will be with you kind of thing. So for you, like where did that come from? The positive and negative force and how you're using it here in your book.
Well, I love an acronym. Like
I know, I noticed.
I live for an acronym.
The 4 O's, all kind of things.
And the 4 O's took me forever to figure out. And anything
that.
I do, I push myself not to copy anyone.
Yeah.
You know, literally, I think I tweeted out last night, or I posted it on the other night. I posted this. Actually, I tweeted it. I'll tell you this tweet because it really is how I try to live by. Is when you copy others, you limit yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to copy. You know, it's so easy to be like, I'm an inspiration. I was a drug addict. You know, I struggle with being gay. Like, you know, and that is one lane of self-help, but it's a little too narcissistic for me. So I like to help others.
Yeah.
I love helping people who need a way out of their own thinking. And acronym wise, I mean, I love an acronym. It's like my last book, I had Chow F, and I say it sounds like a Chinese restaurant, but it's a recipe for change. And it's curiosity and honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, focus. The force, the positive force and negative force. And first I was going to call another version of this book POS because it would have been called like piece of shit people thought, but it really meant personal operating system. And it's all about how we like have all these concepts I create. Right. And then I really was thinking, okay, with everything that's going on this year, last year, how do we help people start making decisions that are one decision away, that's easy to do, decisions with purpose that someone can make today?
Yeah.
And if I can help someone just make one decision today towards where they want to go in their life, it's a success.
And to ignore the boogeyman. Remember?
Yeah.
So when I was reading about the positive and negative force, one of my favorite things that you reference is this boogeyman that you talk about. And, everyone does have that own personal boogeyman. And it's us. It's like, I don't know if you ever saw it, but there's this movie it's a Disney Channel original movie. It was called Don't Look Under the Bed.
Sounds familiar.
It's random if you haven't seen it. It's literally like Zoog Disney, like old school Disney Channel original movie. And it was one of my favorites when I was actually an older teen. It wasn't like growing up. I was actually older because it's the idea that the boogeyman under the bed is the imaginary friend that you forgot about, but it's a mirror of yourself, right? And that's who the boogeyman is.
That part of you that you forgot.
Yeah, and that's really what the boogeyman in your book, I think, comes across as is that it's that voice in the back of your head. I mean, people say like, oh, it's the devil, or it's the demons, or it's the this, or it's that, but it's those negative narratives, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it's
that.
easy. It's easy to blame something as a demon.
Yeah.
Or it's easy to, you're right. I mean, and that's where I'm saying free thought would go, well, let's explore that. Because it's so easy to categorize everything just as what we've heard, but then we authentically need to figure out, like, is that right for me? Is that true?
Yeah.
And the boogeyman is like the scary monster. The scary monster is the beliefs we start having about ourselves when we're kids.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this. Mm-hmm. You are an example of how you had to put the boogeyman to rest based upon how you grew up.
Yeah. I mean, the boogeyman can be a scary guy. But in your book, the way that you kind of attack the boogeyman and how you can like create a thinking process around it is really important, obviously. I mean, I actually resonated with it, like you're saying, because I have been through a lot. You know, a lot of us have. And a lot of that boogeyman is taught over time, where it's like sometimes it's just what people say about us, and then we allow it to be a narrative in our head, and then we create this narrative. And it's funny that you say like people want to blame the demons a lot. And obviously you're not talking down about Christianity or religion. We're both very believer type people. But it's more about just this idea that we have to take responsibility for those negative thoughts, right? And
you got it. You nailed it. It's taking responsibility.
Yeah. And the authenticity you mentioned a lot in your book. And there was something in the beginning with the authenticity, the 4 steps. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's in the very beginning of the book.
Yeah.
And something I underlined really, this is about how you exist and how you express yourself. So I want to share it with the listeners. The first step is to creating a better life for ourselves is to live as our best self. Segue from book number 1. If y'all haven't read Best Self, go get it. Step 2, when we are being our best self, we are able to see obstacles as opportunities. I underlined obstacles as opportunities because I hadn't thought about that. So I want to get into that in a minute. Number 3, when we see opportunities, we can make authentic decisions. And then number 4, when our decisions are authentic, we can let go and let the universe decide. So these 4 steps, how'd you come up with this and what was the reason?
Well, I wanted to build confidence. A lot of what I've come to realize that I write about is being yourself. And it's an oversaturated thing. It's funny. I see people even online talking about authenticity and who even I know behind the scenes. And I'm like, this is so not authentic, but so it gets like, it's very confusing. I think we can know within ourselves at a spiritual, soulful level when we are just being our truth. And I just wanted to first I want people to realize who they are is enough. And then I want people to realize that when we're able to see things through a certain lens, that's being authentic. Yeah. When we just focus on problems and issues, that's just not being our best self. And so, and it all starts, that's why like even in the gift bags, I gave like glasses and such, because it's all about it's as simple as how do you look at life differently? And then how do you make decisions now? And then you can let the universe decide. Yeah.
Well, my favorite part is literally where it says you'll be able to see your obstacles as opportunities. So what do you mean by obstacles as opportunities? Because I take that several ways.
Where do you take it?
For me, I see it like, obviously, everything that we think we can't overcome, it's an opportunity to overcome it. That's what I get from it. It's just like, we just assume we can't do this, we can't do that. But it's like, well, who says? only you do, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really easy to go through life and not look at opportunities. It's easier. The mindset would rather look at obstacles or problems or issues, and so like where rose-colored glasses kind of say, well, just look through a different lens. This book is really about how do you make decisions from that other lens. So
yeah. So my next thing is going to get kind of segued over to another moment, but I was really shocked and excited to see your tattoo of your wizard in the book.
yeah.
There's so much in this book that I think that you are offering of yourself, you know? And there's a big part that I really want to dive in. And before we get into too much more of the book, there's something really special about this book that you decided to share. And it was you coming out.
Right.
And it's like, is that your one decision? There's a lot of references in the book where you talk about that being a part of your one decision, right? It's like there's moments in here where you talk about, okay, so this is my one decision. What's the cause and effect of that decision, and how does it like progress into, you know, the good, or what the path is going to be from there, and letting the universe take over. So why now? You know?
Yeah. Well, I think now because it's really about the reader, and so it's about. I say in the book, I'm talking about these are the 3 most critical, authentic decisions that I've made in my life. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of need to talk about it a little bit. And also, you know, I want to, and part of that is it segues into an exercise, is I want to build people's confidence in that they've actually made decisions from an authentic place. Like when we look back at our lives, and we go, I'm really proud of this decision or that decision. From my experience, almost 100% of the time, it's when we operate from what I call your best self or being authentic. And so I think sometimes we forget that. And so like for example, and I know you struggle with this at times.
Okay.
So I'll bring you into the mix on this.
Peel my layers back.
What's that?
I said, peel my layers back.
Well, you're a bit of a people pleaser a little bit.
I am.
A part of you, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And more so than me, I would say, even though I help people for a living, and that's what. But you people please, and it's one of those things where, with someone who people pleases, if they go into a meeting or they go meet new relationships, that the outcome of how that meeting goes, or those relationships, if they don't go what they perceive as everyone's happy, they struggle. Mm-hmm. They can't let go of the outcome. They can't go. It's harder for people like that to go, I was being myself, therefore the outcome's okay. It takes a lot of practice.
Absolutely.
For someone who's more of a people pleaser. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, that's where people can get pretty upset, as they start to lose themselves. Yeah. Because it can become about other people's reactions. Right? Like you're in a profession where there's a lot of drag queens.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of up and coming drag queens.
And a lot of attitudes.
Yeah. And we're both kind of in this career where it's about being wanted. Mm-hmm. Where to some degree success is how much do people want you.
Yeah.
And so it's important to always, and what I believe is it's more important to be creatively yourself, express yourself, be in your vibe, be in your moment, be in your art, speak your truth, than the outcome. Right. And that's for anyone going into job interviews. That's for anyone who's wanting people to follow them on social media. Yeah. At the end of the day, the most important outcome that you could have is when you're yourself. And that's I ingrain that over and over and over again. And people often get confused. They go, well, who am I? What does that mean? Or I hate myself. And, you know, a lot of what I love helping people do is just realize that they're important, they're seen, they're unique, and that give them permission to just start living that way. Yeah.
So, now that you read me for Phil, no, I'm just kidding.
No, I didn't read you.
I love it. It's honest. It's true. I am, naturally, I think a lot of us are people pleasers, and I have my moments, It's really for me, who I care about, but it's also just a part of how I was raised. I think, I think some of us are raised in a way where you almost start to develop this shell of self-worth is what other people think of you, or like your worth to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you're constantly a helper growing up, it comes off into your adulthood. It's definitely something I've had to face. So it's very intuitive that you've noticed, right? In your authenticity, it's not breaking from what you do every day just by saying, hey, I'm gay.
Right.
It's like this book. That's what I like about, in the book, you don't go on and on about being gay, which I think is nice. It's not like you're trying to tell like your whole life story and like I went through all these horrible things because I'm gay and this and that, because that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being gay has just been a part of you.
Yeah.
But you got to your best self by appreciating it and loving it and being authentically that. And this is a way for you to show other people that they can do it too. Especially men like you.
Yeah, and it's also a way to hopefully disintegrate something that isn't reality.
Yeah.
Like, I just think, like, I'll get love letters from women.
Yeah.
Like, it probably would help them realize that, yeah, maybe they can keep the fantasy going. But I'm just saying it's also just kind of like, I wasn't a public-facing figure whatsoever up until 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like some of it is like, how much do you show and how much do you not?
Yeah.
And I think I'm completely authentic in my life, and I try to be authentic in my work. I always have this thinking of, we're trained in school. Honestly, this is how it's trained as counselors. You don't divulge much of you. In fact, like a lot of the families I worked with for years, they didn't know if I was gay or straight. They didn't know if I was Christian or Jewish. They didn't know hardly even what city I lived in. And that's the art of what we're taught in school. So I think some of it is like, as I've helped people in a bigger way, it's how do you, if you're helping people, what do you put out there that's going to help people? What do you give of yourself?
Yeah. Because
and that's why I was like, in this book, it was so important to me to say it, because how could I write a book about the most important decisions in my life and helping others define them in their lives and not touch on this? So it forced me to just do it. It kind of married the two.
Yeah. Well, it's a big decision you had to make, a one decision.
Yeah.
Apparently there's been several one decisions in your life.
Yeah.
And that's a big one. But it doesn't define who you are completely. So I understand the separation. I think it's very powerful. It's really, really brave of you to do it. And just open up about it to the world.
Yeah.
You have. I think it's important.
What I find in the coaching world is there's so much, I can't tell you, and it drives me a little crazy, how many coaches have never actually coached anyone. So sometimes I'm like, okay, how much do I divulge before I then become that, instead of, I love helping the neighbor next door. I love helping the people on Dr. Phil. I love, and by the way, I never had a vision to write a book, be in the public face of anything.
Happened.
Yeah, and I think no matter how much we work through our trauma, and being gay was really hard for me growing up, extremely hard.
Yeah.
That like, there's a bit of it like, oh, am I going to get wounded? Like, there's a small part that's like, oh, am I going to get shit on or made fun of, or like, are gay people going to be mean to me? Like, I don't actually find that, like, for me, I haven't found, and I'm not a part of it. I'm part of humanity, not community, right? Like, I'm a part of like people that I love and care about. But again, I think there's an exaggerated meanness. There's an exaggerated cattiness. There's an exaggerated like that. Like, to me, I guess I'm a little like, how do I do this thing and like do it in a way that I'm proud of myself and respect it? And by the way, some of this could be, like I even talking about the book, fortune telling or overgeneralizing. And I'm not trying to do that. It's just, I think when you've been hurt when you're a kid, you're almost like, do I want to give this to someone to hurt me? And then I made the decision. I'm like, what's more important is I help other people.
Well, I mean, you're being authentically you, and you're showing people that like this is what you have to do. This is what the book's all about.
Right.
You know, if you didn't expose this part of yourself, then the book would be, you know, invalid in a way
Correct.
too, because it's like the one decision is the authenticity, you know, and showing that vulnerable side is what's making you relatable.
Right.
You know, and I think there comes a time when, for my personal opinion, seeing you and like how you interact on social media and reading your books, you know, I think that you're coming into a time in your life where you're willing and you're open to being vulnerable and relatable to people. Like you're maybe at a point in your life where it's like, I've taken very good care of myself. I've really landed my business. Everything's really in order. Now I want to help people in a different way, because you can help people on such a personal level when you open up your own stuff to them,
right?
Because then it's relatable. Because then, just like when you talk about your past with addiction, that's what makes you relatable. Is it's like, wow, that guy went from those horrible stories to, having his own business and a successful company and this beautiful home and this polished, beautiful lifestyle, and that's where you can really create change, and that's where you become a leader of people. So I think it's kind of that with the gay thing too, is it's like, I might be gay, but look at all the success that I've had. This is the way I still carry myself. Like, I don't have to be defined by being gay. There's no sense. And some days, girl, no matter who you are, whether you're gay or straight, I'll say men, are so wrapped in this toxic masculinity of where we're growing up, and it's those ideals that men act like men and women act like women. So it's not just gay men that struggle with that. The struggles that you're struggling with is also something that straight men deal with. Right. Because as soon as they show a little bit of that feminine side, all of a sudden they're not macho or masculine anymore. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like randomly I saw a TikTok where this girl was like, her husband came and like laid on her chest, and she was videoing him privately, and he was like being all like kissy and sweet with her and blah, blah, blah. And as soon as he noticed that she was recording, he jumps up off the bed and he's like, yo, what the fuck you do that for? Rah, rah, rah. Right. My boys follow you. Rah, rah. And it's just like, but in that moment, he didn't look gay. He just looked like he loved this woman. Right. So it's like he was afraid to show this true vulnerability because of this image thing that we're taught. Yeah. So what you're doing is important. It's powerful. The biggest thing I think that I also love, one are the glasses that I got. Yeah. And I thought they were actually really cool. Thank you. And they were wide enough to fit my face. Amazing. So I wore them last night in the hot tub while I was like kind of skimming your book with my glass of wine and my little book reader. I was filling my fantasy. That's great. I mean, honestly, I don't fit in normal bathtubs. So usually when I'm in the hot tub, I'm just like, hey, y'all, see you later. I'm going to take a bath, So that's my bathtub time.
Wait, where were you in your bathtub last night?
Yeah, in my bathtub / hot tub.
I got you.
Yeah. And I really loved, there's a lot of things I made marks in. Like I'm telling you, I went through this. And another thing I liked here is a quote that I found on page 112 for all of our readers out there. The main reason we engage in fortune telling is that we think it will protect us from rejection. You mentioned the fortune telling thing. Yeah. We all do it. We all do it. And it's this idea of like, you're trying to come up with what's going to happen. Yeah. Before it even happens. Exactly. It's not even predicting. Yeah. It's like fortune. It's believing it's fact. Because you create the scenarios in your head, and all of a sudden now you're stressed out about it, you're upset about it, and it ain't even happened yet. Correct. And I think everyone does that. Everyone does. But it's so in cognitive behavioral therapy, there's something called CBT. Ooh. And it is cognitive distortion. So what the force is the negative force, which is an acronym, looks at your cognitive distortions. Yeah. The positive force is all the hacks to get out of those distortions. So, but yeah, fortune telling's a real thing. I mean, look at the fortune telling business. Why on earth are people going to fortune tellers? I understand that some people want to believe what they want to believe, and some people believe in all this type of stuff. They're looking for the future. They're looking for some hope. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for someone to say, no, you're going to be okay. But when it's done in a negative way, which is more often what's happening, somebody's really predicting something like, oh, they're going to say that. Oh, I could never do that. Yeah. And that's so limiting.
like the universe, I always say the universe wants us to win if we
agree.
allow it,
Yeah.
and it's fortune telling's also where, this idea that we're going to get rejected lives. And then what I have people do, and we do in one decision, is you write down the facts. You write down the facts of what's really going on. And it's really interesting how when you can change your perspective, how much better you feel, and just overall how much you get more out of life.
Yeah.
And it's not people have this idea of doing the work, like I said before, in self-help, that like, suddenly you're going to be having someone put their finger across your face, or you're going to be laying, doing EMDR, or you're going to be laying back doing, analytical stuff like for 3 hours kicking back. But the reality is it's literally just changing your perspective.
Yeah.
And that's what I love doing.
What's the best way to change your perspective, you think?
Well, first you got to know. So whenever we think something negative, we feel it.
Yeah.
So as soon as we start to get that negative feeling, like that's an instant sign.
Because a lot of it's like doubt or fear or that feeling in your
Yeah,
chest.
like, I mean, do you have anything you're feeling bad about?
Anything I'm feeling bad about? A lot of things in my life, but mostly like, not a lot of things actually. That's a little dramatic. Everything. I feel terrible about everything. Honestly, I'm not going home for Christmas this year. I know this is like after, or I didn't go home for Christmas this year, and I feel a little regretful for it because, I hate missing family time, and my family is very important to me, but I also had to make a decision for myself.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel guilty when I make decisions for myself over others, but I also have to remind myself, like, I have to take care of me first to be my best person for them.
Right.
But like missing the holidays was hard for me, and I still feel a little guilty. So it's like, how do I make it up? How do I make it up later? Or how do I make it up today?
Yeah, and maybe it's like, so that would be like, oh, I'm not spending time, over Christmas. But then it's like, well, what's a version of that I could create for my family even though I'm not there?
Yeah.
Like, how can I create that experience that's like your unique version?
Right. Well, my version was like, I sent them the money that I would originally spend on a round trip ticket so they can have like, more money to do Christmas stuff. They're not doing well because of the pandemic. Also like, FaceTime stuff during the day. Like, I made them promise to buy ugly sweaters for everyone so I could get like a good group picture of all of them in an ugly sweater. Little things like that. But it's still like we hold those, I guess, expectations on ourselves.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day. And it's like I had to make a decision to protect myself and my family because of the pandemic.
And I think what you're hitting on is also, what is that emotion? Like we'll go, oh, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But what is it feel shameful? Does it feel scared? Does it feel lonely? Does it feel sadness? Like part of it is just figuring out, which is so hard to do sometimes, is kick back and be like, well, what am I actually feeling?
Right.
Like, and what is that thought that's driving? Because it goes so quickly, right? Mm-hmm. It just doesn't feel good. And it may be okay to also, like, give yourself permission to feel sad that you're not going to be with them, but not beat yourself up.
A few more things I noticed in your book that I just wanted to mention for the listeners out there. You guys, make sure you check it out. I love, again, like we were just talking about, I literally underlined regret like 4 times when it's the regret-driven decisions. And it's like, for me, even the holiday thing, that was a driven decision for me because it was about health. It was also about I had to get shit done.
Right.
So I didn't have the time, really.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes we have to make those hard adult decisions and then be okay with it, process the emotions after. I also love the workbook style, but one thing that was really intriguing to me was the creating your decision team.
Yes.
So it's like when you create that decision-making team, how important that actually is. And when I was watching how you broke it down, like between the different types of people, like people that you talk to, people that are influential or whatever, there's so many different people. I guess we all already have those.
We do. And sometimes we have to upgrade team members, and sometimes we have to add. So I talk about who is helping you make your decisions, everything from business to life. And a lot of it, the people are friends, like a lot of people in my team are friendships, but it's really, I think it's a cool way. It's not that somebody's necessarily going to go, oh my God, I need to get this or this. What it does is it helps you evaluate your life and realize you actually have a lot of people who will support you being authentic, who love you for who you are.
Yeah.
And who you can go to. People have this idea of a mentor, for example. Like I'll get often asked by people, will you mentor me?
Yeah.
But mentorship happens through chemistry. And it comes through it's not one of those things that you become an official mentor, right?
Yeah,
and
true.
so it's helping people understand just like the different people in their life that they could utilize more that would willingly help them. And we all have them.
Yeah.
And it's helpful to just kind of list them out.
Yeah, I love the mentor thing. I mean, I think anyone can be a mentor for each other. Like you sometimes, like we've sat and talked where you've been kind of mentoring, giving me advice. There's been moments where you've sat and I've talked to you and you've been a sounding board and vice versa.
No, and where you've given me even down to the wizard.
Right.
I'm like, is this the coolest shirt? You saw the one decision boxes before they came out. I sent it to a few friends who I trust their judgment, like 3 or 4 people. Well, hey, what's your input? What do you think? Because I can't make a decision yet. I need some other thoughts in it,
Well, and for the listeners out there, these are some of those people that he mentions in the book, which please check it out. We've got a sounding board. You've got the motivator, the visionary, the nurturer, the big picture thinker. You've got the helper, wise counsel, fun maker, connector, the advisor, the student. There's all these people. And when you start breaking it down, and like I was like, wow, I have a lot of these people already in my life. So it's not like you're recreating your whole life and your whole environment. It's really just about understanding what you already have and how you can utilize those people or the way you're thinking, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a really smart and intelligent book, Mike, and I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess my closing out question is always this with anybody that I interview, and it's really just like this book, one decision. What does that mean to you? What do you want the world to get from this book? Like, what's your goals for it? And is there anything coming up that we can look forward to even after one decision?
Okay,
one
decision. Yeah. So
you got it.
You got it. I mean, the reason I wrote one decision and what I know works is we're all one decision away from bettering our life. We all are. Literally.
Yeah.
And until we take a step back and get some guidance and assessing our life and looking under the hood a little bit, we don't know where to start.
True.
And so what one decision does is really simplifies it and makes someone feel good about themselves and authentic with themselves and making decisions as themselves. And I really, for someone who's struggling with like feeling lost or complacent or just can't seem to get things on track, even though they tried over and over again, I know that this is the book that's going to help them get on track. So people stay connected to me with our empowerment group on Tuesday nights. You spoke at one of them 6 months ago, way back when. People are part of my Facebook groups. They text me. So, it's just staying plugged in, and in the empowerment groups, I'm going to start rolling out one decision. So,
yay.
Yeah.
Well, I know I can't wait. I know your fans can't wait. We are ready for the wizard to keep bestowing these magical spells onto us. And thanks for letting me come in and interview you, Coach. I've had a good time.
Thank you, Eureka. David.
Yeah. Eureka, David, whatever. Just don't call me late for dinner.
All right. Thanks, man.